The San Diego State Aztecs national title hopes took a hit this week with injuries to C.J. Stroud's top two targets. Wide receiver, Tank Dell, is already out for the season, and wide receiver, Nico Collins, is also ailing with an ankle injury, and it is not known if he will be available for the Fiesta Bowl against the Penn State Nittany Lions. Tank Dell was injured in Week 13 suffering a broken fibula which ended his season, while Nico Collins exited his Week 14 game with a calf injury. C.J. Stroud responded by struggling badly in New York against the Jets. Stroud failed to complete 50% of his passes and even failed to cross the 100-yard mark in passing yards for the first time in his young career. Coming into the game, C.J. Stroud was the most productive quarterback in the Program Football League, even surpassing Brock Purdy of Texas. However, it became very obvious just how much C.J. depended on his top two targets in a surprise blowout loss to the Jets. As if the loss of his best two receiving targets wasn't bad enough, Stroud also suffered a potential concussion when he was hurled to the turf on a sack by New York's Quinnen Williams, causing a whiplash as C.J. landed on his back and hit the back of his head during the fall. There is little news coming out of Houston, but Stroud is currently in the NFL's concussion protocol, and his availability for the Fiesta Bowl next week is now in question. Davis Mills would be Stroud's replacement in Houston, and for SDSU, who signed Mills as an insurance policy for Stroud during the offseason. Davis Mills was under center for SDSU last season when they won the national championship, but he's a far cry from being a replacement for Stroud, and with the loss of Tank Dell and the potential loss of Nico Collins, Davis Mills would likely fare far worse than Stroud did in their absence. Deep threat Noah Brown and veteran Robert Woods, as well as John Mechie, would be in line for targets with Dell and Collins out, but again, this group didn't do much in New York against the Jets, so it's hard to see them being viable replacements going forward for whoever is throwing passes for the Texans. All is not lost for the Aztecs, who still feature a solid rushing attack and a strong group of wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Josh Downs, and superstar CeeDee Lamb. They also have a potential receiving threat in tight end Isaiah Likely, who has become the starter in Baltimore with the injury to Mark Andrews. Likely had a big Week 14 against the Rams with 5 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. The Aztec defense does have a couple of injury issues, but overall, they are still a strong group that can hold their own against their Fiesta Bowl opponent, Penn State. San Diego State is still the favorite versus the Nittany Lions in the Fiesta Bowl, but going forward, the potential struggles of C.J. Stroud due to injuries to his top two targets in Houston has cast a dark cloud over their 2023 national title hopes.